the company actually owe a duty of care to the consumer, to the paying customer or the client to make sure that the answer being generated by AI chatbots are accurate. So they actually owe a duty of care to make sure that all form of representation, all form of advice, or all form of information being generated or being provided by their AI chatbots to be accurate. And this has caused a major concern because we all know, how is it possible for AI to be 100% accurate?
Hello and welcome to the Legal Insight podcast by HHQ. Today we're joined by Ong Johnson, the head of Technology and Corporate Practice Group, together with Khai Yi, our co-head of Technology and Corporate Practice Group. Johnson and Khai Yi, thank you for being here in the show.
Good to see you.
Here.
Let's dive right in, okay, Johnson? Can you explain what AI chatbot hallucinations are and why are they a concern for businesses today?
So basically, in the realm of AI, hallucination, it refers to a situation where the answer that is being provided by AI is inaccurate, incorrect, or basically just make out fabricated information. In other words, the output generated by AI does not reflect the real world knowledge or actually does not reflect the prompt that is being requested. So that'll just give an example. So AI may actually hallucinate by generating images they were not being requested. Or basically, they will be generating images that are just simply not accurate, such as generating image of a hand with an extra finger, or otherwise just generating a case law that does not exist at all.
Yeah.
And then in our legal field, this has actually caused major issues. So in other jurisdictions, there are some lawyers who actually rely on AI for their research purposes without knowing that actually AI is not accurate. In a sense that AI, they will actually generate fake cases. So one particular lawyer, he actually filed great cases. The only issue is those great cases does not exist at all. And then he just submitted those great cases to the court. As we can imagine, the court does not take it lightly. The court actually gave a very strong remark warning all lawyers by saying, look, when you are doing research, make sure you validate and then make sure that the cases that you submit does not mislead the court in any way. Yeah. So that is happening in the legal world. How about the business world? In the business world, a lot of companies, they are relying on AI for their businesses, for their operations. And the most common way for companies to rely on AI is actually to implement AI chatbots on their website. And the company actually owe a duty of care to the consumer, to the paying customer or the client to make sure that the answer being generated by AI chatbots are accurate. So they actually owe a duty of care to make sure that all form of representation, all form of advice, or all form of information being generated or being provided by their AI chatbots to be accurate. And this has caused a major concern because we all know, how is it possible for AI to be 100% accurate? And this is the exact case that we want to discuss today, which is what you mentioned earlier, Air Canada case. Because of the issue of hallucinations of their AI chatbots, this has caused Air Canada, the company itself, to get into some serious legal issue.
All right, Khai, so could you just briefly summarize the Air Canada case for our listeners out there who have probably not heard of this case?
Yeah, I'll be happy to. Johnson has sort of explain what does AI hallucination mean, right? And the Air Canada case is a perfect example, is a prime example of how a company or a business can actually get into trouble for incorporating AI, in this case, AI chatbot in particular, in their business offering or in their service offering. So guys, just a little bit of background. Air Canada, being an airline company, they actually incorporate AI chatbot as part of their, or rather on their website. So imagine if you are a user, you go to the website of Air Canada, instead of you having to search through the website to look for information, you can actually just use the chatbot function to ask a question, and the chatbot would actually tell you the response, or rather the answer to your questions. And in this Air Canada case in particular, someone who has just lost their grandma, right, was actually trying to look for information regarding bereavement fees or rather bereavement fares on Air Canada's website. In a sense, they want to know how can they claim bereavement fares. And in this case, Air Canada's chatbot, let's just call it Air Canada chatbot, actually provided a response saying that you can claim bereavement fares retroactively as long as you apply for it or claim for it within 90 days of the purchase of your ticket. And that piece of information was actually relied upon by the customer. The customer went ahead and bought a ticket and tried to apply for the bereavement fares later on, only to their surprise that the claim was denied by Air Canada on the basis that they actually don't do this sort of retroactive bereavement fare claims, right? Of course, customer who has just experienced loss of someone dear to them, right, didn't take that very, very well. And they claim, or rather sued Air Canada for a full refund of the air flight ticket. So, surprise, surprise, the customer actually won the case. And that is because Air Canada tried to put forth two arguments, essentially. Number one, they tried to claim that the AI chatbot, during the responding to the question, actually has provided the URL link to Air Canada's online terms of use or online terms of service, which clearly states that bereavement fares cannot be applied retroactively. So they were trying to say that, customer, you should have clicked on the URL link and go to the source of the information and find out what's the actual case and not rely on whatever responses that chatbot is giving. Number two, they were also trying to claim that AI chatbot is a separate legal entity on its own, like a company. So technically, whatever misrepresentation that the AI chatbot has given cannot be blamed on the part of the company that has implemented the AI chatbot. So if you want to sue, in a sense, I suppose what they're trying to say is, if you want to sue the chatbot, not us. Right. So these 2 points were flatly rejected by the court, and the court eventually granted a full award of the refund to the customer.
Yeah. I have so many questions right now, but we'll just go with the first one. Johnson, knowing the case and what was decided in this case, what are the key legal implications for companies using AI chatbots now? Like, this will set a whole new precedent for companies worldwide using AI chatbots.
From this case, we are able to actually highlight 3 key legal implications that should be taken note of by companies. First of all, it's not a duty of a customer to find out the legal or the accurate information from the website. Because when the company has decided to employ AI chatbots on their website or for whatever business purposes, it is the duty of the company to ensure that whatever information, whatever data, whatever advice, whatever representation provided by the AI chatbots to be accurate. So it is not the duty on the customer to do the DD. In fact, the company has a duty to make sure that the information provided to be accurate. Second, which is I think that one of the most interesting argument being raised by Air Canada is AI chatbots is a separate legal entity. Answer is no. AI chatbots is not, and I don't think that it will ever be viewed as a separate legal entity. AI chatbots is a tool. It's a tool being employed. It's a tool being used by company to enhance the operation of the company, to reduce costs. It is a tool, so it can never be viewed as a shield towards to protect company from any legal liability. So I think that these two are the most important legal implication. And the last part is the duty of the company. So I do understand that a lot of companies, they are in a rush to employ AI chatbots on their website because it can actually greatly reduce costs. But whether companies are now spending enough resources, putting enough priority to ensure the accuracy of AI chatbots to be accurate, are they spending enough effort? Are they investing enough cost to reduce the error or the hallucination effect on those AI chatbots? I'm afraid they are not doing so. I'm afraid that they are only looking at the upside. They are not doing sufficient effort. They are not investing sufficient effort to protect their downside. So I think that this is a very important question for all companies, for all GC to consider now.
Yep, I feel like we're putting a lot of the burden and the weight on the companies employing these tools itself. Just a follow-up question on your second point about separate legal entity, because I feel like the service provider themselves hold certain responsibilities, right, for creating the tool. Do you think that Air Canada could have pointed to whichever vendor that provided this chatbot service and say, hey, they're the ones at fault. They're the ones that created this chatbot. They're the ones who provided the service and, as a result, provided inaccurate answers. Can they, absolve their liability or transfer that liability to them?
That's a very, very good question, Zach. Honestly, I've never thought about it that way. But assuming that we were to entertain the idea that in the Air Canada case, the chatbot was actually supplied or rather implemented by a third-party service providers. So it wasn't something that was created in-house by Air Canada's own IT team, right? So I suppose there could be a way for Air Canada to then pass on the liability to the service providers. But in this case, we will have to rely on an indemnity clause, perhaps. And at the same time, I'm not too sure, given someone who is skilled in the art, someone who is involved in the development of AI, I'm pretty sure that they are aware of all these technical and technological limitations of AI.
Sure.
The service providers should have perhaps weave in some disclaimers in the agreement to say that they should never be held liable for any kind of AI hallucination that is purely out of their control, which is a fairly common phenomenon involving the use of such technology. So if you ask me, it can really go both ways. They may not be able to claim.
Khai, given these risks, what strategies are there for companies to implement to kind of mitigate these legal risks associated with, AI chatbot hallucinations?
Just very quickly to run through, I actually have 4 points here. And I think that these 4 points are combinations of legal steps, operational steps, and also perhaps technical steps in terms of how companies can actually mitigate risk of deploying AI in their operations. So the first of all is definitely training. So companies who are looking to deploy AI in their operations need to train their employees, especially the legal team and also IT team and the end users, on the implications of incorporating AI in your day-to-day workflow. And once employees are well trained, the key stakeholders should then come together to formulate policies surrounding the usage of AI and what to do in the event of, say, scenario A happened, your AI hallucinates, someone may file a complaint, how do you address those complaints? So those systems should be properly documented and be properly implemented. Second point would involve how general counsels would be able to help, right? Legally speaking. So number one, they can try to step up their online T&Cs, including clauses in the T&Cs to sort of waive any form of liability in terms of reliance on information generated by AI. So of course, in the Air Canada case, company were trying to point the customers to their online terms of use, but I guess in Air Canada case, it was a question of whether there was proper communications of the online terms of use to the customer, not so much on whether the content of the terms of use itself was sufficient. So terms of use. Third point would be to perhaps on the layout or the user interface of the AI chatbot, right? There needs to be a disclaimer of some sort to say that to highlight the fact that AI chatbots may not be accurate. You see this very commonly done by big companies like OpenAI. If you go to ChatGPT, there's actually a small disclaimer at the bottom. If you use Copilot as well, similar disclaimers can also be found. So companies should take note of all these disclaimers. At least you put the disclaimers out there. It raises some sort of, it alerts the end users or rather the customers to have something at the back of their mind to say that, okay, whatever that I see right now provided by the chatbot may not actually be accurate. So I better check the source, right? And that's where they will actually go through the terms of use, and your terms of use would actually have all the mitigation steps there to say that we waive you waive liability, we disclaim liability whatsoever. So lastly, I think this is from a technical and technological perspective. Knowing that AI will always hallucinate, companies should always go back to their system and regularly conduct audit to make sure that any form of vulnerabilities, any form of potential point of exploits, especially by threat actors, are always sort of addressed. If there's a possibility to patch them, if there's a possibility of maybe reconfigure the AI to make sure that all these things will not be able to be exploited, then that should be done.
Interesting insights, Khai. So on the point of technology and how it's advancing at the moment, Johnson, in your opinion, Is it possible for companies to completely eliminate AI chatbot hallucinations?
I think that this is one of the most important questions for all companies to answer as well. So basically, I think that the company, if they are going to employ AI chatbots, they should really ask themselves this question. They should look internally by answering, are they able to ensure that the answer provided by AI chatbots to be 100% fully accurate. And from our understanding is that at the current state, it is actually impossible for them to 100% eliminate errors, eliminate inaccuracies or any form of hallucinations. The reason because even just by substantially reduce errors, just by substantially reduce any form of hallucination, it's going to cost companies a lot of money. So right now, of course, I mean, it's very important for us to understand why does a company employ AI? The reason is for them to reduce costs, is to increase their efficiency, and most importantly is to actually improve their P&L. So if they come to understand, look, if I'm going to employ AI to improve my P&L, right now you're telling me that I need to actually spend more millions just to eliminate risks, just to eliminate errors. Why should I be doing so? Because the intention is just for me to eliminate, the intention is just for me to reduce costs. Right now, you're telling me to actually spend more costs just to reduce my risk. So right now, if you're asking me, the short answer is really no. It is actually almost impossible for any technology companies to fully eliminate any form of errors because it will involve a vast amount of high quality data. It would involve constant training and refinement of the neural network. And most important is the amount of capital and resources that is required. Most companies, when they are just employing AI chatbots, usually they do have a small IT team. They do not have a proper mega size IT department for them to actually take on this mega project. So at this moment, I think that the real challenge is actually finding the perfect balance between leveraging AI to reduce costs and also investing to minimize whatever risk they will actually be caused by the chatbots. So right now, it's good that companies are leveraging on AI to improve their efficiency. At the same time, companies should also start looking at the downside potential risks that will actually caused by AI.
Yeah. Sounds like companies should actually, be very aware of the actual cost of implementing AI.
I think at this moment, a lot of companies, they are not paying any particular attention because so far that what we are knowing is that Air Canada is the only case. So right now, most of them, they'll be thinking, look, assuming the answer are not accurate, what will happen? So right now, I think the what is going to happen next holds a lot of waters. What is going to happen next holds a lot of weight. Because I think that if there are enough lawsuits, general counsels or the chief risk officer will raise that up, will really ask the tech team to pay more attention to it. At this moment, there's only one case. So for them, they'll be thinking, look, what are the chances of me getting sued by a consumer? But from our analysis, we think that more and more of these cases will be brought to court.
Right.
Yeah. And I think just to add on very quickly, in the Air Canada case, ultimately the damages that was awarded wasn't very high. It was $800+, right? USD. That is a single case. Johnson also mentioned there could be more and more this kind of lawsuit coming up. And can you imagine if it's a class action? Many customers actually relied on maybe one piece of the same information that turns out to be false, and they all lodge, they all orchestrate or rather initiate a claim against the company. Then I think the amount of damages that we're looking at it's way exceeding whatever that Air Canada had to suffer.
And right now we are talking about airfare. Which is something that does not be very pricey. And right now, we can actually be purchasing high-value items like cars, like even property just through website. So imagine where there's misrepresentations. So the companies, what they're suffering will be, sky is the limit. So as mentioned by Khai Yi just now, it's very important for GC to look, are there ways for them to limit their liability? Are there ways for them to limit their exposure? Is the disclaimer actually strong enough for them to make sure that in the event any company get into trouble, they could rely on certain clauses or certain contract to make sure their risk, their exposure is being limited?
Sounds to me like from an investor standpoint or a business standpoint, until the cost of implementing AI accurately, precisely is significantly brought down to a level where, okay, my risk is, the risk I'm taking is worth it. It's better to rely on, natural stupidity than artificial intelligence, it's
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I think that you can always train your agent,
Yeah.
you can train your employees to make sure that whatever that is being conveyed is accurate.
Yeah.
But how many companies they are actually doing audit to make sure the accuracies of the AI? I don't think a lot of companies they're actually paying a lot of attention towards that particular part yet.
Yeah. Bring back the call centers. So, Khai, in this conversation, as we move along with technology, how can GCs or general counsels play a role in these companies employing AI, and how can they address these new challenges, that's cropping up by the day?
So essentially, GCs, in my opinion, they play important roles in helping companies to mitigate their risk. And in this case, mitigating risk of AI chatbot. Number one, they need to make sure that they understand what are the limitations of AI first, what are the capabilities of AI, and what are the risks involved. Then find out what are the ways in which GCs can help the companies to implement certain things, certain procedures, certain policies to mitigate all this risk. And two of the ways that we can think of, particularly how GCs can contribute, is number one, they can provide training to employees, like what I said just now, on limitations, on risk, on what are the things to pay attention to when it comes to deploying AI or incorporating AI in your day-to-day work task. And having done the training, then that's where GCs can help the company again to craft policies in terms of how to use AI. And the policies would naturally also address how to deal with risk involved in the usage of AI, and how do you do, what are the steps to be taken to, say, address a customer complaint I mentioned just now, right? Secondly, how GCs can help is also, we mentioned terms of use just now, online terms of use, and those are legal documents. So definitely that's one of the greatest areas in which GCs can help to contribute. Go through your existing online terms of use of the company, the organizations that you're attached to, and see if you can weave in certain disclaimers or certain waivers regarding the usage of AI, especially AI being deployed by the company, and see how all this can help to insulate the company's risk in this regard.
Just to add on, so basically I think that right now it's important for GC to also understand that their domain is not only limited to legal domain only. So basically right now, the domains such as cybersecurity, AI, technology is also not only limited to the tech team. So basically it's very important for the tech department of any organizations and the legal department to work very closely together. Because right now the role of GC is more than just reviewing contract, it's more than just negotiations, it's more than just drafting normal like legal policy. Yeah. It's very important for them to understand what is the limitations, what is the use case, and what is the exposure of any particular technology. Because right now, of course, we are talking about AI, but a lot of time technology exposure is in relation to cybersecurity, in relation to data loss, in relation to GDPR or personal data. So for GC to really get into the game, is very important for them to also change their mindset, to understand that right now their role is more than just contractual review, more than just looking after the dispute resolutions portfolio, but also to manage risk. In order for them to really appreciate how are risks being well managed, they have to first understand technology. So lawyers and GCs, it's time for you to really have a good understanding of technology. That's the only way for GC to really do a proper job at the current age.
Yeah. Wow. So GCs have a responsibility now. It's not just knowing the law. That's not enough.
Exactly. So it's a good time for them to ask for greater pay as well.
Yeah. Where there is problems, there's opportunities.
Yes,
and now,
exactly.
GCs, perfect opportunity to get familiar, get acquainted with technology, data governance, content management for AI chatbots. Thank you both for the valuable insights and for sharing your expertise on this issue. To our listeners out there, if you have any questions about AI chatbots and potential legal risks, please don't hesitate to reach out on the comments. We respond to all of the comments, and we're here to help you navigate these complex issues. You've been listening to the Legal Insight podcast by HHQ, where we help you unpack the world of business, law, and tech.